Let me go ahead and hit record, and we will get started. Okay, so first things first, for those of you that are new here, sometimes it's just helpful to get kind of a walkthrough of what you have access to because it's a lot to like learn a new platform um and where everything is. So give me just 1 second here and I'll pull that up. And refreshers are good too for those that have been in here for a while. So typing my password too fast, apparently. Okay, so your dashboard is going to look a little bit different than mine just because mine's kind of a beta. Like I have access to all of my programs and so it looks funny and different, but you'll kind of get the gist. And obviously mine is going to look different because it's on my desktop. But this is like the client view of Practice Better. So when you first log in, you'll see either on the side here or down, like as you scroll down, it will all kind of be in one line, your programs, and then any tasks that you need to complete, as well as any forms that you need to complete. So your weekly check-in form will show up here under pending forms if it hasn't been done. And then that goes automatically to us and Bree and myself, and then we put it into a Google document for you. Or you can see it in here, like forms, protocols, that's any supplement recommendations that we have for you that will go here. Um, if you have a message for us, you can send a message here. And then you can also send a message by clicking on this little chat here as well. So it just takes a little bit of time to get used to like where is everything, right? And that is like totally normal. We do not expect you to get it like everything within the first 5 days. So make sure to be super, super gracious to yourselves as you're working through this process. But I just wanted to share with you that's like where everything is. Um, Okay, so first things first, let's go through the questions that were submitted. Okay, so do you go by Marge or Margaret? Because I've heard people call you both. And I want,
Either one, either one.
okay,
Most people call me Marge, but what I'm not, I'm okay with whatever.
okay. I just wanted to make sure I'm like, do I call her Marge? Do I call her
Just
Margaret? So
not Maggie.
Maggie, is that what you said?
Yeah, just
Okay,
not that one.
just not Maggie. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
I was like, that would never have even crossed my mind to call you Maggie, but I appreciate the heads up so I can make sure
yeah.
to not call you by the wrong name. Okay, so let's see here. So what supplement should I be taking? That is a great question. I know that I sent you the form this morning that may not have been filled out yet because again, it was just this morning. That is your current supplements. So once I get the list of the current supplements that you're taking, then I review those and then I'll get back to you on what you should continue taking. If there's anything that we need to pare back on, we can certainly do that. But I won't really know unless I see that sheet filled out. Did you already by chance, I just want to make sure that I'm not forgetting something. So if you already sent that to me, or sent it in Messenger and I missed it, did you already do that? I just want to
Is
make sure
it
that
a form about what supplements I'm taking? I didn't even see that. I'm on my phone when I do it. I think I'm gonna
yeah.
get my computer to
Okay,
get a bigger picture, but I've been
that's okay.
doing like the weekly assessments
That's
and then
perfect.
the yeah, for the supplements, I guess it would be a bigger question because I used to be like pretty like I would have a few supplements, but I really
Yeah.
felt like to really minimize them. I just
Yeah.
sense to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm
That's great.
probably essentially only taking like three.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And honestly, I am very conservative when it comes to supplementation, meaning that I like to see how my body does with nutritional changes first
Hmm.
anyway, and then add things in. So my
Okay.
guess is we probably don't need to add in much of anything yet for you. But we'll definitely have a much better idea like 3 or 4 weeks into the program, what else we might need to add. So for now, because you're already through week 1, now you'll be starting on week 2. Unless you have that habit down already, then you're just focusing on what to be doing for week 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say from an energy standpoint, I think, you know, in our Western American culture, like we just kind of expect ourselves to like give, 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 give. And then when Monday hits, you know, to give some more, when really like we need to give ourselves some pull days and PULL. Like we're pushing, pushing, pushing. We need to have days where we pull back as well. And that just means a day of rest, a day of like nourishing your body, you know, drinking lots of bone broth or tea, hydrating, taking a warm bath, like any of those things that just kind of allow you to like ground yourself, um, and not necessarily feel like you have to be producing for the week ahead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. What other questions do you have for me today? Did that answer it so far?
Uh, yes, so for the hydration, I
Yeah.
was putting the electrolytes that from Stephanie.
Yeah.
It's in a green bottle. I don't know the name of it. I don't know if you're
That's
familiar.
okay. I
Um,
don't know the name, but that's okay.
okay, it would just be one scoop of like minerals, and it's more for like electrolytes. Um,
That's great.
how often should I be doing that? Should I be focusing on, because I love ice cold water. Like I
Yeah.
have ice in my water cup. Is there like a preferred way to maximize on hydration? I made those drinks that you had in the recipes really,
Yeah.
really good. But for one, I treated myself. I was like, okay, I'm gonna drink this, but in the evening I drank one and I just put like a little mineral bubbly water with it. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's good too. But
Yeah.
is it, yeah, like is there a way to maximize the hydration with like just drink room temperature water or not as much of this, the electrolytes, minimize that to 1 day? Um,
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's really, really, really hard to overdo it on minerals, specifically because we have a lot of things competing for our mineral balance. So we have chronic stressors, we have toxins in our body that compete with metals, we have other metals that are competing. But, you know, if you've ever had like mercury fillings, which I had a mouthful of them, still have a mouthful of them that I have not gotten taken care of yet, that need to be like that are competing with those ions, right? And so, for me, how I know, and this has just come with a little bit of like playing around, like there were a couple days last week that I actually needed 3 scoops of minerals, to where I actually felt like I'm not craving water again. Like, so I'll explain how this works for me. I drink like 2.5 of these a day, you know, to get my normal water intake in. But if I'm drinking that and I'm still thirsty, it's actually minerals that I need. It's
okay.
not more water. And so I could tell by like I drink in 1.5 of these by like noon. And I was like, gosh, I'm still really thirsty. And obviously I don't have diabetes. I don't have other like kidney issues that would, you know, if you have those issues, that's a different situation. And I was like, oh, what I actually need is minerals. So I grabbed a scoop of minerals and I was still thirsty like an hour later. And so I took another scoop and then I was like not craving water anymore. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So it was actually the minerals that I needed to make sure that my hydration was being regulated. So some of
Mhm.
it just depends on you and how you feel. Most days I just need 1 scoop. Um, Other days, like it seems like I need more, and it doesn't necessarily seem to be related to anything like stress or what I had to eat that morning or what have you. So I would say do what feels good as long as you're getting all of your fluids in.
Okay.
And whether it's warm water or cold water doesn't seem to make a whole lot of a difference for most people. Just however you can get it in is kind of my rule of thumb.
Okay. That makes
Does that
sense.
make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a great question. Really good question. Okay, so let's go to. Okay, so I see that Lydia submitted a question and Danielle, but they're not here yet. So Mel, since you're here, I know that you'd posted a question in the chat. But what's your question for today? What can I help you with?
I got three.
Okay, go for it.
Um, is there a difference between the enzymes that you offered in this program and the one that Young Living has? Um, can I like switch back and forth? When I'm done with one, I use the other one.
To be honest, I don't know what's in there. What is the name of their digestive enzyme? Do you know?
Good look.
It's all right. Just want to see if, oh, essential zymes. Let's see.
Yeah, something like these. Yeah.
Here. It's loading, so give me 1 second here. Um, I mean, you certainly can switch between the two. One thing that I would caution is that Essential Zymes does have soy in it. And it doesn't say what kind of soy it is, so I am assuming that it's probably not organic, for
Mm,
that. The other thing too is the price point. It is quite a bit more spendy than the now super enzymes.
yes.
So I think it just depends on what you want. Obviously, like I'm not in charge of your budget, but if it were me and I was having to spend money on something, I actually took Essential Zymes for quite a few years and I've found it to be pretty comparable to the now super enzymes. So I think it's up to you. If you want to switch and play around, you totally can. But for the price point, I don't see a whole lot of difference between that and something like now super enzymes.
Where does it say soy?
If you look on, I just exited the page. Hang on 1 second.
Is it under other ingredients?
I'll show you 1 second. It says safety caution contains soy.
Oh, it's not listed
Um,
ingredients.
they listed it as lecithin, which is a little bit
Uh,
tricky. It's a little bit misleading. So,
it's less.
but if you look on under safety, it says contain soy, keep out of reach of children.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
So that's just something I'm cautious of in
Yeah,
particular because when they put it in supplements, and you're getting it through multiple supplements multiple times a day, that can be concerning. So I just try to avoid that wherever possible.
and soy affects your hormones too, doesn't it?
Yeah, for a lot of women it does, especially if it's not fermented and not organic soy, which most soy that's in supplementations is not fermented and it's not organic. So that's a problem.
Okay. And then the other one was I cannot find the source of the USP progesterone. Where does it come from? Because I was talking about it to a friend and my mom, and they're both interested in it, but I can't explain the origin of it.
USP progesterone? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
The herbal one that you had me use.
Oh, Bezwecken is
I think, yeah.
okay. I can pull it up for you because it should be actually on their website. The last time I looked, which was not very long ago, it was about 3 weeks ago, it said wild yam. Let's see here. Vitamin E, coconut oil, ingredients. Yep. So I'm not sure where I found it, but it does say wild yam somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, most organic, plant-based progesteronic creams, tinctures, what have you, are all derived from wild yam or something within that family. Um, that's typically how they're formulated.
Okay. And then my question that I asked on the chat was once I started the program, my
Hmm.
period for 3 months were 4 to 5 days
Okay.
consistently. As soon as I started the seeds, it started getting 5, 6, 7 days.
Okay.
Um, this last one lasted 8 days.
Okay,
I was doing the seeds and the progesterone. I mean, my
okay,
symptoms, my PMS, my insomnia are better, but then
good.
just my periods are heavier. And
Okay,
I have 4 days of very heavy flow,
okay,
and it's long.
okay. So 4 days of heavy flow and total start is 8 days.
Yes, this was the last one. The last two are
Okay,
around 7 days.
okay. And was there any spotting at like when you're including those 8 days, are you including spotting or are you including like bright red?
Bright red. Just
Okay,
the bright red till it's not bright red anymore.
okay. Okay, so let's just take a look here and see. So this is her tracking guide, which obviously this is what we put together after we get all of your data. So don't be freaked out if you don't know how to read this, that's okay. This is just the data, how my brain works. So let's take a look here. So yeah, definitely improvement. It looks like in energy and sleep, which is great.
Mhm.
Skin's looking a little bit better. Let's take a look at what these are. Night sweats, hot flashes are a little bit better than last time. Brain fog and memory, that looks better as well, which is great. Okay. Okay, and you said PMS was all better this time?
It was much better. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So there's a couple things. How was your intake of greens leading throughout the month before?
It's not daily,
Okay.
but definitely 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay. And in that 3 to 4 times a week, how many cups would you say you're getting per day of like green fibrous vegetables?
Probably 1 cup.
1 cup. Okay. So that would be my very first guess would be, so there's a couple of things going on here. When we have chronically low progesterone, it's not just perimenopause that causes that, right? It's not just the ovaries slowing down their production of progesterone that causes that. Usually it's years and years and years and years and years of estrogen dominance as well. And so when we look back at estrogen dominant symptoms, headaches, breast tenderness, fatigue, prolonged heavy bleeding, anxiety, brain fog, all of those are some of the high estrogen symptoms. So if we have to address both sides of the equation in order to get our progesterone balance. So we can take progesterone cream, we can make sure that we're getting enough protein with every meal, we can make sure that we have healed our digestion so that our progesterone is working properly. But if we're not also addressing the upstream problem of excess estrogen, then we're still going to have some of those lingering symptoms. And one of the big tells of lingering high estrogen is cramps before your cycle, a prolonged cycle, heavy bleeding, headaches, breast tenderness, low libido. Those would be like the big ones. So my first recommendation is to make sure that you're still supporting your liver by getting as many greens as you can. And I know that it's hard, you guys. This is like, it's the one part of the program for me that I'm like, I wish the data was wrong. Like, I wish I could get away with not having to eat greens every single day. But the fact of the matter is that I do, and we do, because we have to provide enough fiber, and we have to provide enough material to pull the estrogen out of the cells of the liver. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you'll have 2 months, like this is like classically what happens is somebody starts progesterone cream and they feel better for 2 months and then they plop back down again. And that's because progesterone cannot keep estrogen in check by itself. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
So that would be the first thing that I would say is make sure that you're doing your castor oil and getting your greens in. Even if you can only get greens in 3 to 4 days a week, make sure you're increasing the volume. So one thing that really helps me is when I look at my plate, is there something green on this plate? And if I look at every plate and I say, okay, there's something green on this plate, and I aim for like a handful of something green, whether that's anything on the list that we talked about, um, then I'm gonna get to my goal and I'm gonna have a better period because of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be, yeah. So for you, it's the castor oil and the greens that I think are going to make the biggest difference for you in helping to shorten your cycle. Very unlikely for it to be seed cycling. Yes, the seeds are potent, but I've never seen them behave that way in terms of, prolonging somebody's cycle unless they already have other issues going on with their estrogen. So we want to make sure that we correct that first.
I have a friend that used to do seeds with a nutritionist, and her
Mm-hmm.
nutritionist recommended her not to do the first part when um of the cycle of the seeds, just the second part, because the first
Okay.
part might have increased her estrogen or something like that. Is that true?
I've never heard that. It sounds like there's some context missing to that information though.
Mm.
Like I don't know the context of her health history or why that would be recommended for her. I've never
That was the
in
explanation, because her estrogen was high and the seeds could make it go higher.
the only way that they could make it go higher is if she's not clearing her estrogen by doing all of the other things that she should be doing.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. Like in your case, if you started seeds and you're not helping support your liver, then yes, it may slightly amplify that estrogenic uh, benefit that we're actually looking for and we actually need. But because if you're not clearing the toxic estrogens from your liver, then it's just going to amplify the toxic estrogen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it does glutathione. Does that help clear the estrogen as well?
It does. It's a master liver antioxidant. So it is something that is beneficial for the liver, but it's not very specific to estrogen. So it's more general liver support, but not necessarily estrogen specific.
Right. But it can help.
It
Uh,
can help, yeah, for some women.
Yeah, because I've been on that by my other practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just making sure that it was okay to keep
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's a great antioxidant to have. So I wouldn't suggest going off of it. But I would definitely, for you, focus on getting the greens in and doing your castor oil and see how that shifts your next cycle, okay?
And just one more thing,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's okay.
My eczema came back.
Okay,
Once I started the Mega IG 2000 and the
okay,
biocidin.
okay,
When I first started, it disappeared within half a bottle of the Mega IgG.
okay.
So I stopped for a month and then it came back. And now I'm done with
You
one
stopped.
bottle and it's still there. So maybe if I increase the greens, it will help with my eczema as well.
Yeah, let me just make sure I understood what you were saying. So you started the bottle and the eczema went away, and then you stopped the bottle for a month,
I did. Because
and then you re
it went away, like completely cleared me up.
okay.
And
Yeah, so
I took
typically,
2 months that I was clear
okay,
without taking anything.
that's great. I will say that's pretty atypical for eczema in terms of usually for mega IgG with eczema, we need to be on it consistently for about 3 to 6 months in order to really seal up the lining of the gut. Specifically for eczema, because remember, eczema is an autoimmune response that the body is having. And that skin response, whether it's acne or eczema or psoriasis, is letting us know there's something going on in the lining of the gut that's not optimal. And I've never seen like 2 weeks or 1 month of mega IgG be enough for people to really seal the lining of the gut. So to me, that just tells me that your body wasn't quite ready for you to be done. And to keep on with the work and knowing that, that a return of eczema doesn't mean that you're backtracking. It simply means that your body is revealing a symptom in order for it to be healed.
Okay.
And so it's like red flag, right? Same thing with gas or heartburn or bloating or a weird period, right? It's your body letting you know there's something coming forward to be healed. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I also think it has to do with my vitamin D levels because the period that I did not have eczema was when I was going to the pool every day with my kids.
Okay.
And I soon, like a week after, the pool closed is when the eczema came back.
Got it.
Like a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks. And,
Okay.
I wasn't in the sun anymore and I was
Sure.
supplementing it. So does that, is that even, is there, I know there's vitamin D correlation with autoimmune,
Yes.
low levels will make it flare up more. So should I be supplementing it? My
If you're not getting in the sun every day or you live in an area where you don't have good sunlight, then yeah, most of us do need to be supplementing with vitamin D for that. There's actually an app called D Minder that you can download that will actually tell you how many IUs of vitamin D you're absorbing based off of your location.
okay.
So that's something that I use like I mean, I use it anytime. We live in the Pacific Northwest, so I can pretty much assume I'm not getting anything from like November to April. But I still go out and I still try to get some because it's still more beneficial for my body to get it through the skin. But yes, I would say vitamin D does play a role in the immune function of the skin for sure.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay,
I
Danielle.
think all my questions have been answered.
What was that?
All my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Good. Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Good to see you on here, Danielle.
Yeah, I'm glad I made it. So,
I
because
know.
I'm 3 hours behind, my
I
daughter
know. Tough.
has to get out the door to school at 7:15, so that's why it's a little late.
You're totally fine. You're right on time, actually, because I was like, I'm gonna wait to answer her question until she gets on
Oh,
here.
perfect.
I think you're going to be here. Okay, so this is actually a really good question. Okay, so at what point should I try progesterone cream and other hormone support? I eat clean, drink lots of water, exercise, go to bed early. I will say the one thing I need to work on is chronic stress and anxiety. Hello, motherhood for all of us.
Mhm.
You're not alone there, but I would love to try some hormone support if that could be something that would be helpful. Okay, so I'd like to know if there are any hormone support options available without doing the Dutch test. So there's kind of a couple questions tucked in there, but let me go ahead and share your tracking sheet because there's a couple things that definitely will inhibit progesterone production. And so I may kind of like move around between your questions, not because I'm avoiding them, but more because I'm trying to figure out how to weave it all together in a way that
Mhm.
makes sense. So the first thing that stands out to me, so number one, most of our progesterone production happens actually in the gut. So it's that gut brain ovary communication, right? And
Mhm.
so, but even before this can happen between the gut, the brain, and then the brain telling the ovaries, hey, we need to stimulate more progesterone. If there's an estrogen problem with the liver not clearing estrogen, then this is going to be a little bit less effective. Okay, so we have an upstream problem and we have a downstream problem. So you actually don't have too many excess estrogen symptoms aside from like the cramping, fatigue, heavy period, like those, I would say. So the first 4 weeks of the program are working on addressing the estrogen dominance, right? So making sure that estrogen is being cleared effectively. And if you think about it, you're literally clearing a path for estrogen to be more effective for you, or progesterone, sorry.
Okay.
And that's actually why I don't recommend any progesterone supplementation unless we've worked through these stages first and have like a
First.
really good it's not because I'm punishing you, I promise. Like I've been in those low progesterone places where I'm like, somebody give me the drugs, you know?
Mhm.
Not really, but like just give me the progesterone. But I
Whatever.
knew,
Yeah.
but I knew that it wasn't going to be effective unless I did the groundwork. So you're doing all of the groundwork, and it's really
Mhm.
hard to wait through that to kind of figure out what is my baseline and what can my body do. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the backstory, which, you know, I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but some things that stood out to me on your tracking sheet here that are like, that's interesting, and lets me know like there's some more upstream work that we need to do, even if we were to do progesterone supplementation. Like we gotta address these things. So first things are the heartburn and constipation. So
Mhm.
how often do you go to the bathroom?
So it's kind of hard to answer those questions because with the constipation, if I take the right dose of magnesium, and I just started a supplement called Digest Ease from Earthly, a tincture.
Okay. Yeah.
If I'm taking the right supplements, I don't have constipation. The days I marked I had it were like if I tried to wean down, or I think there's certain times in my cycle where it might get worse. But without any supplements, I think I'd have it all the time.
Okay.
Just like incomplete elimination.
Yeah.
Um, I will say also when I introduced the HCl supplement, I think that helped with the constipation,
Good.
which was another thing signifying that I might not be producing enough stomach acid. So,
Yes.
with the heartburn and constipation, so the heartburn, it's not necessarily like heartburn, it's more indigestion, but we don't have a
Okay.
column for that. So, and
Sure.
that's I'm kind of learning to manage it with smaller meals and knowing like what kind of makes it worse, flare up.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and I really do think there's like an emotional stress, anxiety component just because
Sure.
I do eat really well and exercise
Yeah.
and like so lifestyle choices. I should be like really healthy based on how I eat and
Right.
take care of
Yeah.
myself. I think it's up here for a lot of it. Um, so and then I don't think I shared, but so my daughter had a chronic health issue, not
Okay.
the same as your daughter's, but
Yeah. That's okay.
I know you probably understand how that can really cause a lot of stress and anxiety. So she's
100%.
doing much better, but I think I'm still kind of stuck in the last
Yep.
few years and a
Totally.
little more worried than I should be. And I'm talking to a
Sure.
counselor to work through it.
Good.
But I'd say that's a big root for me is just like worrying about her health and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I completely get that. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's taken me, you know, a lot of work, a lot of years to kind of untangle some of that emotional process. So I very much understand that. And, you know, and our emotions do impact like how our body feels. Like these chronic,
Mhm.
I know for a fact, like that chronic stress caused like major digestive issues for me. And so as that stress has come down, now what I'm doing to impact my digestive system is actually working a little bit better. Because I'm not in that high intense, you know, stress
Mhm.
state. So that being said, yeah, our digestion can, it sounds like there's like two things going on. There's a little bit of shutdown digestion in the lower digestion, right? That's causing that feeling of like not fully eliminating, even if you're going every day.
Mhm.
Or, you know, maybe if you don't take enough magnesium, you skip a couple days, right? So that is a pretty common pattern.
Mhm.
Um, with the heartburn slash indigestion, which I would kind of call them the same thing because they
Okay.
feel pretty similar and they have kind of a similar manifestation in the body. There's a couple things that can help with that. Obviously, digestive enzymes for one.
Mhm.
Are you doing apple cider vinegar at all with like with meals or before meals?
Yeah, I've been doing
Okay.
it before meals. And I just recently bought Paleo Valley that you had sent a link to in an email, the apple cider vinegar complex one they
Oh,
have,
nice.
because I'm a little bit concerned about my teeth, like drinking it too
Sure.
much, since it is acidic. I
Sure.
mean, I'm drinking it and then I switched with water after, but I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
if the
perfect.
Paleo Valley is equivalent in, you know,
Yeah.
dosing or yeah.
Totally. And I do fully get that concern. Actually, I used to worry about that a lot with the raw apple cider vinegar until I started working with microbiome labs and working with their naturopaths and running a lot of the microbiome tests because if your stomach acid, it's a weird like two-way street that happens. If you have low stomach acid, you're not that's an indicator it's going to move up and then cause bacterial overgrowth in the teeth, which is actually what causes the decay. It's not the apple cider
Oh,
vinegar or acidic substances. Because
okay.
if you have enough stomach acid, it will actually keep that entire microbiome from your tongue all the way through your stomach in check.
Okay.
Um, so that's something that really eased my mind because I'm like this is such a beneficial food, and yet, there's all this information out there saying like be careful of your teeth, right? Same with
Mm-hmm.
like squeezing lemon in your water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were drinking that all day long, that would be an issue, just like drinking sugar would, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think you're probably good if you want to use some combination of the Paleo Valley stuff,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to the apple cider vinegar.
Okay.
And then I think what we'll pay attention to is just noticing with the enzymes, with the hydrochloric acid and apple cider vinegar, if that indigestion is starting to come down,
Mm-hmm.
um, if that makes sense. Now, with the anxiety and stress, is it a feeling like, tell me more about like the state of mind that you're in. Like, is it constantly racing thoughts? Is it a particular theme of thoughts? Is it like, tell me a little bit more about how you experience that.
Well, if you looked on my sheet for insomnia, it was about 2 weeks ago that I
Okay.
had like the worst sleep insomnia
Oh,
episode of my life.
I'm so sorry. I get it.
Yeah,
And
it was really bad. So I ended up taking an over-the-counter sleep aid one night just to kind of help me reset.
yeah.
Um, but what I noticed was I was like when I tried to go to bed, my heart was racing
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and I would just lay there and if it finally calmed down and then if I moved positions, it would start to race some more.
Okay.
So now I'm taking just an herbal tincture to help with sleep and some
That's
melatonin.
great.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to wean off of that, but I'm still noticing in the at night when I go to bed, I'm laying in bed and reading. That's my wind down.
Mm-hmm.
My heart's racing a lot, and I don't know if it's racing all day, but I'm like moving around and busy and I don't notice, or if it's when I finally wind down. That's
Sure.
the main symptom. And then
Okay.
the the stress is primarily so my daughter also suffers from constipation and
Okay.
she had a lot of digestive issues a few years back,
Okay.
enuresis from
Okay.
the constipation. So the
Yeah.
enuresis had is she recovered, but I find myself self still focused on the constipation because I worry about her getting backed up again. So
Yeah.
it's kind of an annoying thing to worry about because it's like a daily thing I'm hoping she'll do
Yeah.
versus like if I was when she was younger and would get ear infections. I didn't worry about it every day. I just worried about it when she caught a cold. Um,
Right.
so I was working with a nutritionist for her, and so I have some guidance, and the nutritionist
Great.
thinks it's okay if she skips every other day, but I think she just started school this year. We were homeschooling before, and I think
Okay.
the transition's kind of thrown off her digestive system, and I think
Sure.
that's why I had a really stressful couple weeks the past few
Yeah.
weeks worrying about that.
Yeah.
But
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, that's kind of my worry. And so I'm trying to reset those thought patterns of we're not where we were 3 years ago, but we've just been
Right.
working on it for so long that I
I
think
get
it's
it.
like those neural pathways are like well worn in my brain of
Yep.
because there was a time where I had to make sure she went every day when we are working through the enuresis. And
Right.
so my brain's still there, I think.
Totally understandable. Yeah. Completely understandable. And yeah, I have similar little triggers like that just to relate where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, that was then, this is now. And that can actually be really helpful to say that out loud to yourself. That was
Okay.
then, this was now. Because that part of your brain that's stuck in the past is remembering something that was really painful and scary, right? So like there's
Mhm.
an emotion attached to that thought. It's not just like a small thing like you forgot to check the mail one day. You know what I mean? Like there's something that's like
Yeah.
pretty distressing, like a lot of
Mhm.
distressing emotions usually around that. So um I'm trying to figure out how to like describe this. There's like a specific couple of body movements that you can do to actually cue your brain that you're in the present and not in the past. And
Okay.
so one of those things that you can do, it's let me see if I can like show you. So you take your right hand and you put it in your left armpit. It's called a containment hug. And I'm squeezing the alternate shoulder, and you'll notice a need to yawn after like 3, 7, 12 seconds, like something like that. Initially, it took me a good like 30 seconds to yawn before my nervous system would like, it's okay, relax.
Okay.
And then when you yawn, you'll switch to the other side.
Okay. So one hand is in your armpit and the other hand is kind of squeezing your arm.
Yeah. And if
Okay.
you think about it, it's like when we're really distressed, we want someone to hold us, like hold me firmly, right? And the same thing
Mhm.
like with when our kids are distressed, like they don't want you to just like hold them nonchalantly, right? It's like hold me tight. Like I want to feel like I'm
Yeah.
in your arms, right?
Mhm.
And so it's that same because like it's not like our spouses are always available to us, right? It's not like we can go to
Mhm.
our friend and be like, hold me tight. This is a
Yeah.
little bit more, you can do it anytime. And so, and
Okay.
I've taught this to my kids too, like when they feel really overwhelmed, like the emotions are really big, right?
Yeah.
I'll wait to yawn. It's really weird to demonstrate this because I can't talk and yawn at the same time. And the other thing you can do is you can just firmly like squeeze your arms like this.
Okay.
And what you're wanting to do is tell yourself that was then, this is now. So like you're cueing your body that
Okay.
you're actually in the present. And
Okay.
so even if it doesn't stop the thought process, what you're wanting to do is get your nervous system out of fight or flight. So it's like
Yeah.
even if my brain still has this memory, I can say, gosh, that was really hard. That was a really hard
Mhm.
thing that we had to go through. That was really distressing as a mom to feel like I couldn't fix that. Like, however,
Mhm.
you need to validate the emotion behind the anxiety, right?
Okay.
Anxiety is the front man, just like anger's the front man. There's always other anxiety, other emotions that are tied into that. So even this is hard to do because we're busy, right? We're just going about our day. But I try when as soon as I recognize that thought pattern to actually stop myself and say, that was really hard. That was
Mhm.
a really hard thing that I had to go through, but that was then and this is now. Like I'm
Okay.
not stuck in the past. So that's a quick like nervous system shift that you can do. And also, that self-validation is really big because it's validating like, yeah, that was a really hard thing to go through.
Mhm.
And it may not be big to anybody else, but they're not the ones who had to go through it. You are.
Yeah.
And it impacted you how it impacted you. And
Mhm.
that's a valid thing. So I know that we kind of went off topic of progesterone here,
No,
but
it's good.
I'm wondering if some of that, since you mentioned stress being high,
Yeah.
that might help with that as well. Now, the other thing when you feel like the racing thoughts or the anxiety, or difficulty falling asleep, let's say, kind of any of those things, do you have a desire to be comforted or do you have a desire to be alone?
Probably if I could choose, I would choose to be comforted. It probably depends on the time of the month. I think
Sure.
before I get my period, I get annoyed and like don't want to be
Irritable, get
touched.
away from me. Yeah.
But I think probably in general, it would be the comforted. I'd say the other stressor of my life is I take so much time to cook everything from scratch and prepare and go to the farmer's market and do like
Mhm.
local, organic, whole foods, which I kind of feel like once you know the truth or whatever, you can't go back to packaged processed foods.
Right.
But I've just gotten like more and more into that from scratch, which is great, but it's so time consuming. I just feel like my days are so full.
Mhm.
So I'd say that's the other stressor because I'm the
Yeah.
only one in our family that prepares the meals and
Yeah.
does the kitchen cleanup and all that. And I'm
Yep.
glad to, like, it's very rewarding to feed my family nourishing foods. But at the same time, it's like a
It's a lot.
full-time job. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
100%. Yeah. It
Yeah.
100% is. Yeah. I have conversations with my friends about that all the time. I'm like, it's like my whole day. And then
It
I feel like my
really can
kitchen is
be.
never clean because
Mm-mm.
I'm always cooking something and yeah, it's a lot. So some probably yes, it's rewarding, but also it's a lot. And there's some
Yeah.
probably feelings of overwhelm with that. So I actually think part of the reason why I was asking you some of those questions is because I was trying to identify which homeopathic remedy would might be beneficial for you in that
Mm-hmm.
situation. So I don't know if you have access to Nux Vomica. Um,
Yeah, I have a whole
okay.
kit.
Okay, awesome. So I would start with just one pellet of the 30C.
Okay.
And I would take one pellet daily
Okay.
unless you notice your symptoms get worse, like mood, emotional state, digestive symptoms. Um, the reason why it's almost like if you think about homeopathy like a nudge, it's like a punch to your nervous system, a very gentle punch. I probably shouldn't use the word punch. We'll say nudge, that's better. A nudge to your nervous system to address the susceptibility towards that retaining or holding on to stress. Nux is very, very like internalize all of our stressors. So there's that whole process, but it's also really good for like the racing, running worries, like that
Okay.
don't quite let go. So I would do one pellet as needed daily, unless you aggravate, and an aggravation is not harmful. It just means like, oh, that was more nudges than my body could catch up with.
Yeah,
So then I'm gonna back down to maybe every other day. And let's see if that doesn't help in addition to everything else that you're doing.
that sounds good.
Um,
Yeah. I'm actually
now,
taking
oh,
a homeopathic course. It's called
oh,
Gateway to Homeopathy with
oh,
Joette
with Melissa.
Calabrese.
Okay.
Um, Melissa, I think I read about, she does some of the gateways, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it with someone named Laura Lee, but same
Okay.
class, I think.
Okay,
So I'm
yes.
learning a lot, which is amazing.
That's great.
But it's also like my personality is I like to have everything. I'm type A, and so I'm doing
Mhm.
that, and then I'm doing your course,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I want to get everything I can out of
Yes.
both courses, and I find myself again feeling overwhelmed, but I'm like, but
Yeah.
I want to do it all. So,
Yeah,
but I am
I get
learning a
that.
lot about homeopathy, which is
That's
really
great.
amazing. Hmm.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool to use. So I would say give that one a try and see if that doesn't
Okay.
help with some of the emotional state, um, as well as digestion, because Nux is a very big digestive remedy. So I wouldn't be surprised if that also helps with that.
Okay.
And then as far as supporting your progesterone and your hormones, you don't necessarily have to do a Dutch hormone panel to at least like how I work, I don't necessarily need you to do a Dutch hormone panel to know if we need to support you with that. Meaning I'm very confident at like understanding symptom patterns and what we would typically see on a Dutch test with specific patterns. And only typically recommend it if I'm really unsure what we're dealing with. Like,
Okay. Okay.
what are we dealing with here?
Okay.
Um, because it's not a cheap test. Like I
It's
totally get that.
expensive.
So I'd
Yeah.
love to save people money if we're
Yeah.
not needing to use that. So that being said, um I'm trying to think of how do I want to answer that question. I'm not opposed to you trying some progesterone. I just really want to I really want to see these digestive symptoms shift because I think that's
Before.
what's going to really shift the progesterone for you.
Okay.
However, I also understand it's kind of miserable in the in between sometimes. So if you'd like me to send over a recommendation, for one, and you can just start very slowly, and just go titrate it very slowly and see how your body does, then that may also be needed for a time, and that's okay too. So I
Okay.
think it's up to you as far as what your preference is on that.
Okay. Well, I haven't noticed a shift in my period symptoms yet, which is
Okay.
the main reason I was taking the course
Yeah.
originally with you. But then we learned that you could help me with maybe some of the digestive stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I before I started taking the course, the month before I stopped having my breast tenderness, which I
Mm-hmm.
usually 5 days prior to the cycle always have breast tenderness. I didn't have it for a few months, and then this month I should be starting in a day or two. I had the breast
Okay.
tenderness again, but I think
Okay.
I contribute it to the stress because I had that
Yeah.
really stressful season of a few weeks, the
Totally. Yep.
insomnia. So I don't know if we want to hold off on the cream or not. Like I think I'm like you, I could go either way, but
Yeah.
I
You know that the stress was a big contributor.
I know the stress was a big contributor, and like I said in my question, I eat so well and
Mhm.
I do all the right things, but it's just that stress.
Yeah,
So if
totally.
I if you feel like some cream would kind of be a push to maybe help, I don't want to jump into anything, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you're necessarily jumping into anything. Sometimes it is a little bit of trial and error to see like, oh, that was the thing that I needed, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so I would say, can you remind me, you are taking a probiotic, right?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
taking the Life 9 one. I was taking what
Okay.
I had. And
Okay.
then I know Young Living, it might be too long to wait, but they'll have their sale next month. So
Okay.
I usually stock up on all my oils for the year when they have their
Okay.
sale.
Smart.
So I'm not taking that super multi-strain one yet, but I would
Okay.
like to. Mhm.
Okay. I'm actually thinking of a different strain for you than that one. So what
Okay.
I might do is I will add that and the progesterone to a protocol for you, and
Okay.
then when you're ready to switch to that, then you'll just know what to go to and when to get started, okay?
Okay, great.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Did that help you today?
It did, yeah. I think part of the stress was all compounded from a few weeks ago. And I think
Totally.
part of it was like even taking the course, I get so over focused and just want to do everything right. And then I
Totally.
overwhelm myself. So
Yeah.
when I was super stressed a few weeks ago, I had to like stop for doing everything or
Yeah.
watching the videos for a week just to kind of
That's totally
let go
okay.
of the responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. I can tend to be that way as well. And so one of the things I've had to train myself to do is to actually say, I will get out of this exactly what I need. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever I'm able to show up for is going to be what I need. And that's not a weird, like, woo-woo thing. Like, I am a Christian, and so I believe that when I'm in alignment with what God wants me to do, then whatever I'm able to show up for is going to be what I
Mm-hmm.
need. And so that takes me out of that like almost poverty mindset of it's never going to be enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Anxiety, which sometimes we can't control because our brains just they do what they want to do,
Yeah.
but I might try reframing that a little bit too. I'll get what I need and it's going to be okay. So but I do
Cool.
get it, and breaks are totally understandable. So no shame in that game.
Okay.
Um, really quickly, I want to answer Lydia's question. I know that she's not here, but I thought this was a really good question before we wrap up today. Okay, so how can we know if heavy periods are just a hormone imbalance or when we should be concerned about something like endometriosis? Will we know if there's something more going on? So that's a really good question. I do wish she was here so I could ask her some more directed questions, but I'll just kind of go with what I have. So some ways that we can know if somebody has endometriosis. Endometriosis tends to be very, very painful. And it can come with a lot of different sensations in the body, but like a dragging feeling in the uterus when you have your period. So it feels like something's pulling on your uterus. And that's because there is something pulling on your uterus because you have either fibroids or excess tissue growth that's pulling on the tendons in different areas. The only way to really know that is by an ultrasound or an MRI or a CT scan. Usually they do start with an ultrasound to just see if there's anything that they can see as far as tissue growth on that ultrasound. But how I would clinically make that decision is how is the client responding to all of the treatments that would normally shift that symptom? So if we're working on all of the things, and let's say it's been more than 4 months and we're doing all of the things to clear the excess estrogen from the liver, and the client is still having really painful, really heavy periods, at that point, that is when I would want to be looking at ruling out like a fibroid or endometriosis. But I try to, unless it's very clear at the outset that somebody has endometriosis, I try to reserve those more like invasive procedures for after we've done some of the work. Because usually for the majority of people, I should say, and we've had, gosh, hang on, how many? 5 out of 7. No, that's not correct. 3 out of 5. Sorry, I'm trying to like remember without having the data in front of me. 3 out of 5 of the women that I've worked with that came into the program with known endometriosis actually had their endometriosis completely reversed just by working through these stages. So I know that is a possibility for some women. That's not for everybody, but it is for like those 3 out of 5, like I said. So some of it does depend on what the client wants as well. So if you're the type of person that you want, like, I want to know and I want to get those treatments and I want to get those scans, by all means, I'm not going to stop you. It's good to have that information. But that is how we would know. And also, if you have endometriosis, it is a hormone imbalance. So you can't really have one without the other. But there are multiple different ways that we can kind of address that problem. So Lydia, if you have more questions once we wrap up the call today, please feel free to put it in the chat and I'd be more than happy to help you. But thank you ladies for showing up today. I hope that I was able to answer all of your questions. You guys brought some really good ones today. And if you think of anything after we hop off the call, don't hesitate to reach out in the group chat and I'll be happy to assist you. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll chat soon. Bye-bye.